Well, this market is on the move. Took a day off yesterday. Missed kind of an interesting day, which is quite okay, but I would say we are definitely in a sense flipping the script here. I think the bulls definitely are showing some signs of vigor. Love to see it. So let's dive into today. Good morning, by the way. It's Black Coffee Trader with the daily trade plan here. It is Friday, May the 2nd. This will be my first trading day for the month of May. And the big thing that's very clear to me on the Nasdaq futures is the 19,700 area. Yesterday we pulled right into that area as a low. Actually, I think that might have been when the market at the end of day, I think we sold down into that area. Yes, we sold down into, we closed the market right around the 1855s. Or the 19,855s, and then the after the market closed, or right into that 5 o'clock close, and then the market reopening, we fell right down into the 750 range. I think there might have been some earnings that came out last night that affected that. But anyway, here's why this is so important. Look at the flip from these highs that we've had over the last week or so. These highs have been coming in around the 19,680s, and we flipped, we blew right through that, and we tested it again. And this yellow line that I drew in here, this is the daily 50 SMA. We have not been at the daily 50 SMA in quite some time. You can see that right here. This is the daily 50 SMA. This blue line, actually should change this line to blue, but that line is sitting right around the 700s. And yesterday we are above it. We're above it today, and I think that is the must-hold area. Pretty clear on the Nasdaq futures. I think that is the key thing. If we can hold that, I think honestly this is the best short for me. If we could get a move down into the 700s to set up a long, that would be a big break and retest long. I would love that. That would be an awesome trade. Here's the other thing that's interesting. If we fall below the 50 SMA and we fall below these highs at the 685s, that sets up a pretty nice short. And this is a pretty big move. I mean, this is 300 points on the Nasdaq, and also along off the 700s. You've got a couple hundred points into the low of day yesterday. You've got a couple hundred points into the low of the day yesterday. If you long above this kind of low that we've held for the last couple of days here at the 800s, or the 900s, I mean, if we set up a break and retest long like right now, if we wouldn't have news in the pre-market coming up here, I mean, that would be a nice little long opportunity. I'm kind of over trading pre-market. It's for me, it's just too risky. I don't see it well enough, and I just don't trade it. But anyway, that's a nice break and retest long setting up here. And again, longing up into some of these high levels from the 20,000s. I mean, that's another, 100 points there. So there's some opportunity in this today. And I think one of the best longs that I'd be looking for, again, that pullback here. The second one would potentially be a little pullback long off of the 900s. I think we have to be careful longing into this high. We've got some pretty big levels here, 20,040s, also the 20,200s. But if we break that, there's an opportunity for a long trade above the 20,200s. Let's look at some of these levels. If we go back here, let me just refocus this a little bit. I'm on the 60-minute chart, and if you look at the 200s, the 20,050s, that is these highs coming in right here. We get this low, or this gap fill from back here in this little gap that was created back in May, or March, I should say, not May. And then we have this high coming in here at the first part of April as well. So that's where the 50 comes from, the 20,050. And then the big 20,200, we've got a high here, we've got a high here, we've got a high here. And then that corresponds with some lows coming in from back here in very early March. So those are some key areas to look at and be careful of if we're longing into those levels. Look at this, if we actually would get above the 20,500, which would be a pretty massive move. I mean, that can happen, but once we get above the 20,500s, there's some free bandwidth up to 21,000. So I think that's, if we're headed that direction, that speaks very, very well for the bulls. But as of today, again, we'll be looking at really paying attention to this low over the night, the kind of intra-week low, if you will, the 900s. And then really the big one for me is this 19.7. That is the big deal. If we fail 19.7, I think we're going back down. This is the one that we have to hold. We have the 50. SMA, we've got the 50 daily SMA, we've got this low coming in over the overnight session around the 740s, 750s, and we've got these highs coming in around the 675, 685. So I think this range really from about the 685s to the 750s is the big area that must hold. If we can get a pullback into that, that would set up an excellent long. Being a little cautious on the upside, but again, that's a pretty big move. That's a couple of 300 points. So that's going to be the game plan for today. You can kind of see where I've got the arrows set. Moving on to ES. ES, somewhat similar. It's not quite as clean, maybe for me on ES. This gold line here, and I'm going to change that to be kind of this light blue line. This is the 50 SMA. The 50 SMA is sitting here right at these lows, which is very interesting. This is the kind of the last couple of day lows pretty much have been sitting right at where the daily 50 SMA is today. So that's a very, very, very interesting point. We have the low of day yesterday coming in here around the 5618s. And if you look at this level right here around the 5600s, this is where the aftermarket low came in yesterday. Actually, the overnight session low is right here at the 5600s. That's exactly where we had the highs coming in earlier this week. So that's a very, very interesting point. And I think that's the big must-hold area for me on ES. If we fall below the 5600s, you're looking for some short setups. You want to be careful with that. I'm not sure that I'm going to be looking for too many longs above the 5630s, 5650s, unless we get a really good hold. If we get a really good hold, I think this becomes a little bit... You got to be careful longing into highs like this. You really got to be careful. The best long would be if we break the high of day yesterday above the 5680s. If we could break that, we've got some room for some moves to the upside. There are some important levels to be careful of above. But I think the best long would be a pullback into these lows around the 5600s. And that is very similar to what we're looking at on the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq, obviously, we're looking at the 50 SMA. We're looking at these lows. We're looking at the flip of the highs of this week. This would be an excellent pullback long trade. On ES, it's not quite as clear because you've got the 50 SMA is a little bit higher. If you fall below the 50 SMA, that becomes a little bit cautionary. Is this thing going to fall down below, and are we going to go back down? But again, I think that is the big area to hold on ES. And with some caution. I mean, the moves are not quite as big here. There's only 20 to 40 points right in here. That is a nice move on ES, but there's not quite the opportunity here like there potentially is on the Nasdaq if we get some pullback longs. So that's where that's sitting. Obviously, if we fall below this, I think that is very similar to what we were seeing on the Nasdaq. If we have a flip below this, we're obviously going down to the 400s in that range, and the kind of cautionary with all this, a lot of market movement right in this area, kind of this channel. That would be a cautionary short, but that would be a short opportunity. On ES, you've got kind of the same thing following through these 5580s, the 5550s. And all the way down here to these lows. If we get a pullback all the way down here, that could set up a long trade off of some of these lows. Got a high, basically support turned into resistance, turned into support, bouncing off of that. That would be an option there. You kind of get the same thing. I didn't mark that on ES or on NQ. I really should. That really could be a trade on NQ as well. If we get a pullback to this, let's move this down here. That could set up a long trade up into these highs if we get a pullback into that. Anyway, that's the ES game plan. Again, I am really, really, really focused on the Nasdaq today. The Nasdaq is very clear to me, and I think it creates a lot of opportunity. Gold. There is a potential here for gold. Gold has chopped around here a little bit, and this is an area that we yesterday, obviously, we fell down here below this key hold, or this key level at the 3265s. And so right now, if we break the 3275s, which is the overnight high, which that lines up with these major lows coming in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holds there right at that level. So this is support, and it is acting as resistance right now. But if that flips, that could set up a marvelous long trade on gold. Again, if we fall below this level back here, If that flips, we could set up a short. I'm not looking for that trade just because of this. I don't really want to short into this area. I would rather see us fall down below the low of day yesterday. You could almost adjust this level. I've got it here because of this high back here in April, but I'm going to be watching this range. If we do get a fall down here and get a break and retest, that could set up a short trade on gold. Again, the main one I'm looking for is a potential right here. Really kind of these two. I mean, it's a possibility. I'm not really. Basically, gold, I'm looking at gold and one of those things where if the opportunity sets up, I'm going to take that trade. If not, I'm not going to push my luck. I've really tried to zoom out on gold and be a little bit more very, very much big picture rather than trying to get it too much intraday into the weeds. So, but anyway, that's a pretty big level there. That's pretty interesting opportunity potentially. On the Dow, this big area right here, let me just hope I can do this without freezing up these charts for too long. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to adjust. This big area right here, this is this big market push. On the Dow Jones, we have not really pushed out of that. So that is a very interesting observation on the Dow. I mean, yesterday we've basically kind of chopped right through that session or that area. So I think for me on the Dow, if we fall below yesterday's lows and kind of the overnight lows, you're looking at this high range, and that sets up a potential break and retest short down into the 4,000s. Obviously, these are still in play. If we fall down below, there's a short opportunity. There's also a long opportunity off the 38.4s. I've had that for a while, and I think you could almost make the argument that if we get a pullback into this area, you could long it up into these highs. But I just think because we have not broken above this high with any significance yet, I'm not really looking to long this until we get above. If we can get above yesterday's highs, there's a potential for longs up into the 800s, 41.8s, all the way up here. Obviously, you have to be cautionary about, taking profits at some of these levels, but that's the long that I would be looking to set up there. And again, there's a potential for this. I just don't think I'm going to trade it. I'm going to wait for shorts, and if we do get a break and a retest of this area long, I don't know, maybe I'll take it if it really sets up well. There's a potential that I would take that trade. I don't have it marked here because I'm not too convinced. I would rather just see us push up and then take the long above these highs to really be above this big area that I think is a pretty major area at the 41, 150s, 140s. So that's the game plan for today. We'll see how this thing shakes out. Again, I am really, really interested in the Nasdaq. I think that creates a lot of opportunity, a lot of clarity. It's a market that I trade quite a bit. So that's the plan for today. So we will see where it shakes out. Hopefully we can have a good, strong day here and start the month of May off on a green foot. That would be awesome. So hopefully you have a great day. Be careful out there. Trade well. And until next time, take care and so long.